Welcome back to Culture Shock. We're going to start off immediately with a WTF story. We'll just read the headline for you, just to jump right into it. School assigned girl to sleep with boy who identifies as trans without parental notification. And that is from Mary Margaret over at the Daily Signal. So yeah, an 11-year-old girl was assigned to share a bed with a male student who identifies as a girl on a cross-country school field trip. She's in the 5th grade. This happened in Colorado, and the parents of the girl are calling on the school board and the superintendent to provide a clarification to its policies relating to children who identify as trans. So here's a bit more background. A 5th grader went on a school district-wide sponsored trip to Philadelphia and D.C. this past summer. Parents had been informed numerous times that the boys would be rooming on one floor and the girls on an entirely separate floor, and the boys were to stay off of the girls' floor to keep them very much separated. This specific 11-year-old was assigned 3 roommates, 2 other girls that she knew from school, and the 3rd student was a boy from another school who identified as a girl because he presented as a female with long hair and girls' clothing. The boy revealed that he was actually biologically a boy. The 11-year-old's parents were not made aware that this child was actually a boy. Okay, so what happened? The girl snuck into a bathroom and called her mother, who was actually on the trip with them, but not considered a chaperone. And she was saying how uncomfortable she was sharing a bed with this boy, even though she had a good friendship with him. So school chaperones then called the principal, and the principal then called the boy's parents. And the parents confirmed, yeah, my child is transgender. And we want to keep the child in stealth mode, and other children on the trip should not be made aware that he is transgender. The kids weren't allowed to tell anybody else the kid was trans, even though the kid told them voluntarily that he wasn't actually a girl and that he was a boy. So the boy then moved rooms after a lot of trouble, but only to be relocated to share a room with another girl. So the original 11-year-old girl who called her mother from the bathroom, that family has 2 4th grade children planning to go on a trip to New York, Washington, and Philadelphia in 2024, this upcoming year. And they are emphasizing that the school district must clarify its policies for room assignments for students. And they're arguing that parents should have the ability to opt their child out of rooming with children of the opposite sex. So some thoughts, if I may. There's the background for you. Why are these parents perpetuating this lie that this boy, that their child, their son, is actually a girl at age, 11 in 5th grade? How screwed up do you have to be? Horrific parenting, by the way, to allow a child to identify as something that they're not, especially at such a young age. I probably identified as a friggin' Disney princess at 11. I thought the tooth fairy broke into my home whenever I lost a tooth, and then a big fat man dressed in red came down into my house through a chimney. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? Children are naive and gullible and have absolutely no idea who they are, what they're talking about. So their parents must have aided in this boy's transition. Second, the fact that the school was, playing hush-hush after a teeny tiny little problem arose, why so quiet? Why protect this one transgender student and not the other girls that are so deeply uncomfortable that they had to share a room with a male, that they went into a bathroom and made a stealth phone call to a parent? There is nothing wrong with separating children by sex on a field trip where sleeping arrangements are involved. And the fact that they were more concerned, that the school was more concerned about upsetting this one individual transgender child, and this transgender child's parents, than a bunch of other young girls, that speaks volumes. And there are probably so many similar stories to this one that go completely, undetected and unreported for so many reasons. Fear of getting canceled, backlash, being called transphobic, and, not holding an inclusive, safe environment for all students. The transgender community is roughly what, like 1% of like the adult population, and people are more concerned about babying them as children and making sure that they are okay when they're the ones who are doing things like withholding information from other young girls, and parents are willingly withholding this information as well and thinking it's okay for young girls and young boys to sleep in beds together just because one boy feels like a little girl. That's a horrible excuse for parenting, and changes need to be made not only in this Colorado's school district, but also other school districts where similar situations are arising. So that was my rant of story for the day, my WTF moment. I saw that headline by, I don't know if I already said this, but Mary Margaret Olahan over at the Daily Signal had that exclusive, and my jaw was on the floor when I read that yesterday for the first time. Up next, we have a little reaction segment. We have a person here who, for people who are watching, you won't be shocked by what I'm about to say. This is a transgender individual. We're on the transgender beat again today. It seems like a lot of my stuff that I talk about are wild trans stories, and I feel like it's just kind of becoming my brand. You know, like, oh, culture shock, you know, shocking transgender stories, hearing me, looking like me, absolutely opposing all of that nonsense. We have another reaction segment today about this person who was misgendered at the bank. And you're probably wondering, why do I keep hammering all of these videos and all of these people who run to their phones? And I will tell you that after we watch this video. Let's just watch this together and listen to this.
Just because I had a bit of a jarring experience here. I went into the bank. I was trying to change my name on my account, which apparently I can't do because my ex and I still have a joint account, so my ex needs to be present. The girl who was doing it had a question, and she calls her coworker over like, well, he's trying to change his name on his account. And I'm like, she kind of like looks at me a little bit and is like, oh, I'm sorry, and just like writes it off. But like, I'm just like, you read both names. Like, she had both my IDs and my legal name change paperwork in front of her. So, you know what my name's going to. Number two, I look and sound like this. I know I'm 6 feet tall, but girl, come on, I'm wearing a dress.
See, that's mistake number one that I find with all of these transgender videos. And I have watched and listened to a lot of them, and a lot of them have a very similar, storyline to these. They're saying, I was misgendered, but look at me. And that's where they lose me, because I'm looking at someone who looks like a man in dress up. Like, it looks like a man who decided to dye his hair pink, grow it out really long, and try to pretend to be a woman. And also, the funny part about this too is I believe he says, listen to me. That's where I'm also like thrown for a loop, because that is a very deep voice for a woman. I know a couple of girls who have, deeper voices, more like raspy voices. There's a difference between a girl having like a deeper or raspier voice and a man's voice. Sorry that's offensive to people. Actually, I'm not, because that's just the truth. But there's a difference between knowing a woman's voice versus a man who is pretending to be one and cosplaying as one. Let's keep listening.
I am wearing a dress. I am wearing makeup. I'm wearing eyeliner and eyeshadow and everything. Like, what do I have to fucking do? What do I have to do?
Another thing I'm going to bring up, hearing that, the excuses and the explanation for why this man should be considered a woman is because he's wearing a dress, he has makeup on, and he sounds like a woman. Offensive to all people who are actually women, and know that there's a lot more to being a woman than just wearing makeup or putting on a dress. It's mimicking us. It's making us look like a joke. It's laughable to anybody who would see this and think that that is a depiction of a woman. You do not experience the same things that women do. You could never relate to a womanly or feminine struggle that only biological women deal with. And you think that you can just level up to us by putting on a dress, wearing a lot of makeup, and just claiming that anyone who doesn't look at you as a woman is transphobic and a bigot and hurtful and putting you in an unsafe environment. A real woman never has to argue and defend that they're a woman. If you ever see a person arguing, saying, "Excuse me, I'm a man, I'm a woman," there's a very, very high chance that that's not true. Because a true woman, a true female, would never have to argue that they're a woman because they already know that they are. And I know that there are other girls and like women like listening to this and they're just like kind of laughing. You know, I've never had to argue with someone about being misgendered because they know truth when they see it. And these people know truth when they see a man mimicking women and mocking women and trying to pass as a woman.
What do I have to do to like just get gendered correctly once while I'm out? Like I know it's happened before, but like when I'm doing something like official like this, it's been so annoying that like it's just like, oh, well, he needs this and his and him and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, are you kidding me? You use your eyes. Use your eyes. This isn't rocket science.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. It's actually a very interesting choice of words that this person used. Your face is not that of a woman's. It shouldn't be that complicated. You're absolutely correct. That's actually the first thing that I kind of agree with you, to be honest. It's not complicated. They're seeing a man, so they're calling you a man. That's not offensive or wrong to speak the truth.
It's very clear that if you aren't sure, here's a tip. You aren't sure, ask. Ask what my pronouns are.
It's not a person's responsibility to stop what they are doing to make sure that they are accommodating you and your feelings. That's not necessary. I would never do that. I would never want someone to stop what they're doing just to make sure that I'm okay with what you're calling me. And now you're having a breakdown over being misgendered when you look and sound like that. I've said this once before, and I will say it again until I'm blue in the face. You have to try a lot harder than that. And keeping on this transgender beat, I seem to really have a brand picked out for myself. Pangender. Have you heard of it? This woman decides to explain what pangender means. And spoiler alert, it's everything while also absolutely nothing at all.
So when people talk about gender being a spectrum, most probably picture a line with male on one end and female on the other and non-binary in the middle. But I think a better representation of the spectrum is a triangle with the binary genders, male and female up there, non-binary genders over there, and agender over here, and most people are going to fall somewhere within this triangle. The prefix pan means, in brief, all. So a pangender person, instead of being inside of this triangle, ends up being a circle around the triangle, aka all the genders. As for a difference between pangender and gender fluid, I don't think there's too much of a difference except for what happens internally on a regular basis. Most of the time I feel like everything and nothing all at once, but I do sometimes feel in certain situations more like one thing than another. Happy Pride!
And I'm going to go back to a question that I asked in the beginning of this little reaction segment that I did, where you're probably wondering, like, Lindsay, why do you keep hammering all these videos? Why do you keep pulling these out? And there's a couple of reasons. One of them is because this 1% of people is trying to blame the other 99% and frame us like we're the bad guys, like we're the bad people, like we're offensive, we're doing something wrong, and that our, behavior is unacceptable. And I want to keep reminding you that social media is fake and that these people online, even though there are more, like increasingly more of them popping up in like day-to-day lives and whatnot, I want to make sure that you know that 99% of people don't think like this. That these people are the ones that have something wrong with them, not us for pushing back against, this behavior, these actions, these ideologies in schools, in the workplace, in the media. There's nothing wrong with us for pushing back against this. I just want to keep reminding you how insane these people are so that you don't feel like you're going insane. Hope that made sense. Hope that cleared things up for you. And I hope that you enjoy watching these and realizing just how normal you are in your day-to-day life. And lastly, we're going to end with a little good moment of the day. This is a video that I saw, but I watched this happen live last night during the Monday night football game. Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars quarterback, who goes down after one of his teammates actually kind of steps on his ankle bends the wrong way. What's the good moment out of this, you're probably asking? One of the Bengals defensive ends, his name is Trey Hendrickson. The camera caught him trying to help Trevor Lawrence up, and once Lawrence got up, he basically fell back down. He could not put any pressure on his ankle. There's a clip of Trey Hendrickson immediately getting down, kneeling down, and saying a quick prayer when he realized that Trevor Lawrence was not going to be able to get up and, continue playing or even walk off the field by himself. I just thought that was very, very wholesome. I remember wondering if that was going to get picked up by news outlets, or even if the NFL was going to, post a video of that. And they did. So that was one W for the NFL I saw from last night. I just thought that was a really nice moment. And I was really glad to see that Hendrickson was getting a lot of, good publicity for this. So there's your one normal good person moment that comes out of this podcast. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed a little, different lineup of segments today. I'll be sure to keep an eye out for other interesting stories that might infuriate you, make you laugh. Until then, make sure to keep following Town Hall on social media. We are Town Hall Media on Instagram and Town Hall Com on Twitter. And if you want to see more of my stuff, I share a lot of my videos on my own Instagram, and that is at Hey It's Linz with 3 S's. I post a lot of behind the scenes stuff when I film Culture Shock. So until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a great weekend, and I will see you or talk to you in the next episode. See ya.